In this video, I am joined by the Italiano. We are going to break down these count them, two Avengers rides coming to Avengers Campus. We're going to break it down, speculate, talk about it up next on OG 55. Let's get it, get it. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I am here with the Californian, George the Italiano. He hasn't officially moved yet, not officially, but he's been out here for quite a while. George, it is good to see you, brother.
How you doing? Glad to be back on again, and doing it from my hotel room that I seem to can't get out of at the moment. But I should be in the next few recordings. I should be back in my kind of my home base setting, if you will, until eventually I do make that final move out here and permanently make my East Coast tattoo a multi East Coast and West Coast kind of setting. So
yep, absolutely. Well, it's good to have you back, brother. Let's talk about these Avengers rides. Now, we were at the D23 Expo together. Look, I told you going into this thing, I was like, okay, if we get news on the Avengers e-ticket, I'm going to be a happy OG. You know what I'm saying? I want the Avengers e-ticket news and I want Pandora news, right? We got both, but it was really surprising when Josh gets on stage and said 2 rides are coming to Avengers Campus. That was very, very surprising. I know a lot of fans like to give Disney and Josh crap, and we've given Josh a lot of crap, you know, but I'm telling you, and I understand there's been controversial stuff with like the Rivers of America and stuff like that, but by and large, this expo, I think he exceeded expectations in so many ways. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of them. The Avengers. When you look at we're getting 2 rides. Who would have thought? I never would have guessed this. But this is courtesy of the Diz or WDWinfo.com. It says here, Avengers Campus at Disneyland is expanding with 2 new rides. So it says here, what's behind Avengers Campus wall at Disneyland Resort DCA? Well, the answer might surprise you. An expansion is in the works for this park that will double the size of the area dedicated to some of your favorite heroes. Not only will there be a 3rd attraction added to Avengers Campus, but there will be a 4th. So we're going to have Web Slingers, we're going to have Mission Breakout, we're going to have Avengers Infinity Defense, which is the Avengers e-ticket, and we're going to have Flight Lab. Okay, so this is interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and kind of break this down. So this is actually the first of the attractions. Now, this is the e-ticket that we all were expecting. This is the e-ticket that we've been talking about for literally years. It says here, this is from the Disney Parks blog, get ready for a multi-world adventure experience with Avengers Infinity Defense. Technology that allows the Avengers to jump between worlds has gone missing, and King Thanos is using it to wreak havoc everywhere. Recruits will travel to iconic locations like Asgard, Wakanda, New York City, alongside the likes of big and small heroes. Ant-Man, right? Small. You also just might find yourself face to face with King Thanos as well. So, George, overall thoughts on the aesthetics and how this is the entrance to the attraction? You like it? Love it? Hate it?
Yeah, we kind of pretty much had an idea, like obviously where the location of the entrance was going to go, because they have the extra room that was set aside specifically for the e-ticket attraction. That's basically like right in between the backstage area where Mission Breakout is and where Cars Land is. So I'm digging the aesthetics of how like the approach is to, you know, get on the attraction. However, I had mentioned this in a previous recording. I don't really know how I feel about the title of the attraction. It's okay, but I feel like Disney is kind of like falling back on the names, the titles of the attractions, because it's like Infinity, I think is cool. But when you say like defense, it's like, okay, yeah, let's ride Infinity Defense. Like it doesn't roll off the tongue nicely, you know?
No, it's not the catchiest name. And that's why I feel like when I'm referring to it, I'm still referring to it as the Avengers e-ticket, because Infinity Defense is clunky. You know what I'm saying? And I know we sound like douchey fanboys here, you know, but it's true though. It doesn't say the name, you know, it doesn't roll off the tongue, right? It's weird.
It doesn't. It's like I feel like we're all eventually in time going to say, let's go to ID.
Yeah, ID, exactly. Now here's the thing: we saw the ride vehicles, right? Mm-hmm. Now it looks like, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up, but it looks like basically it's gonna be like a Transformers type of attraction. What's your feelings on that, brother? In terms of the ride vehicles.
So I actually, believe it or not, I have no problem with those kind of ride vehicles. I recently just went to Universal Orlando with our buddy Slimer, and I know that for a fact he would agree with me that we really were digging the Transformer attraction, which normally I'm like, okay, it's cool, you know, but I mean, I would actually put Transformers ahead of The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, even though I still love that ride. I feel like it's kind of outdated in the sense of what the technology based off of what Transformers is. So I feel like that this is going to be even higher than Transformers, because now they have even more better technology to kind of utilize this ride system. And I think also too, it's probably going to have something similar to what Tokyo Disney has, like with the Peter Pan ride, but they can kind of, with Peter Pan, it's kind of like a slower motion kind of thing that you're moving through Neverland, where I think if they kind of turn up the notches, because it's something that deals with Marvel and the Avengers, that it can give us a thrill, but nothing too over extravagant, that everyone will be able to enjoy this ride.
Yeah, a couple of things here that I want to talk about. This is the ride vehicle, by the way. This is what they showed us at D23. So it looks very Transformers-ish, you know what I'm saying? But again, it's also very much similar to the ride vehicle, like you were saying, for the Peter Pan Neverland Adventure over there in Tokyo, right? A couple things. Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure is going to be a more tame experience because of the nature of the IP, right? It's much more of a family ride, geared towards little ones and stuff like that. So it's going to be a more tamer experience. Here's the thing, though, and I've seen people criticize this, be like, "Oh, well, look how tame, you know, Peter Pan is. Like, why would you choose this?" It's like these vehicles can be programmed any way. Okay, we've seen it. Look at Tower of Terror over at California Adventure. How you took Tower of Terror, which is a much more of a slow burn, a slow buildup on that attraction, and you flipped the switch using the same ride vehicles and completely changed that entire experience, both not only in theme, but also in just the intensity. The intensity of Mission Breakout is like 10 times more intense than Tower of Terror was, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Same ride vehicle, same building, same everything, except for the window dressing, the theme. But they were able to program those elevator vehicles to be a much more intense experience. Same thing with this. Peter Pan, yes, will be a more tame thing, but you can probably program these vehicles to get much more intense, much more crazy. Now, I don't think they're going to get crazy. I mean, you don't want to get too nuts, but it will be a thrilling experience, probably akin to like a Transformers or even like an Indiana Jones adventure, right? There's a little bit of a thrill, a little bit of an edge to it, but it's nothing that like is excluding a ton of people. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we'll see. But here's the other thing too that I've seen a lot of people kind of complain about was the Transformers element. A lot of people don't like Transformers. You know what I'm saying? They don't like that attraction over there at Universal. And they're like, this is basically just Transformers. Here's the other thing too. While there might be similarities between this and and Transformers, I think fans are really jumping the gun with the assumptions here. You don't know what elements are going to be presented in this attraction, what kind of technology. Just because you have the ride vehicle and some screens doesn't mean that that's exactly going to be the beginning and the end of the whole experience, right? There could be elements in this attraction, and there probably will be, that will separate it from that of Transformers. You know what I'm saying? There could be animatronics that blow your mind. There could be a new effect or new technology that separates it from Transformers. So I think fans, look, it's okay to be cautious. It's okay to kind of debate and discuss it, but to go immediately to, well, this is just Transformers, who cares? I think people are really jumping the gun on that. You know, you really don't know. Look, you could say the same thing about Small World and Pirates of the Caribbean. If you went on Small World and they made an announcement, well, we're going to make a pirate boat ride. Oh, well, I already been on that. I've been on Small World. Well, yeah, but you know what? The way you set dress, the way that you present them, the experience, and with different technology and everything makes all the difference in the world. And you see that with Small World and Pirates, right? You see that even with Dinosaur and Indiana Jones Adventure. You know what I'm saying? So just because it's a very similar ride vehicle to Transformers doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same experience. Just be aware of that. What are your thoughts on that, George?
I completely agree. You know, Avengers is a completely different storyline and a different feel than Transformers. So when you go on a Transformers ride, it gives you the feel of Transformers like how it does in the films. That's what this is going to do as with the Avengers, you know. And speaking of experiences, they have confirmed, I do recall at D23, that instead of it going into kind of a multiverse kind of notion where you're kind of leaving your own world and kind of going out of world expectations, it's basically you're just traveling from one location to another, where you go to Wakanda and you go to New York City and what have you. So this is basically going to be like a transport in the heat of the battle in different locations, but in the same time frame. So you're not going out into the multiverse like how it originally was intended.
That's interesting. Now, this is Avengers Campus right here. Oh, actually, I'm jumping the gun here. Hold on one second. We have another attraction here we got to talk about. This is...
we do? That's right. The little hidden gem.
A little hidden gem. So Stark Flight Lab. Okay. So it says here, if you're up for another mission, Tony Stark has one for you. Now, they did get Robert Downey Jr. back to do the voice for Iron Man in this attraction. So fantastic on that. It says here, as you know, Tony, he always wants to try something new and exciting, and it's going to make you feel like a superhero yourself. With the just announced Stark Flight Lab, you're going to sit in a 2-person pod and deploy to a test station. Then a robot arm grabs your pod and starts wiring you around in a simulated flight. So this is interesting. So these are, and we talked about this with Ebba, or I did with Ebba and Conductor the other day, and people were bringing this to my attention. I was wondering, okay, you have the KUKA arm stuff here, but then you have people on the ground. Is this like a tame version of the ride or something? Like you can do the tame version or you can do the KUKA arm version. Apparently, you start off on the ground. The robot arm grabs your vehicle, and then you start to do the KUKA arm experience. That's kind of interesting. Now, my overall first impression of this attraction is Test Track. Totally Test Track. And what I mean by that is, like with Test Track, you kind of go through, we're going to test the tires. We're going to test the acceleration. We're going to test the brakes, right? I think we're going to see a similar thing here, where it's like Tony Stark will be in your ear. Okay, recruits, we're going to test your jetpack. Okay, recruits, we're going to do the barrel roll now, and I think that's the energy and the kind of direction of this attraction, a very like Test Tracky kind of thing. What do you think? Am I wrong?
It's just a thing.
It's a thing. It's a Test Tracky kind of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like the more you really think about this, if you break this down into layers, that a lot of people are saying, well, there's not a whole lot of theme to this. It's basically, you could see the kind of the KUKA arm itself. It's like, what kind of adventure are you going into? Well, the storyline, you're basically not going into an adventure with the Avengers. It's basically the training portion. So it's almost like this is the setup before Infinity Defense. It's almost like if you kind of follow the storyline, it's almost like you should do this ride first. So it's almost like Tony Stark prepping and preparing you to go into battle. We're going to teach you how to do, as you had mentioned, like the barrel roll, where, with the jetpack and everything. And then you go on the adventure with Infinity Defense. So this feels more down the line of really what Avengers Campus really stands for, is you're going into a campus that is run by the Avengers, and we are their recruits. So they're training us for these big, massive battles against King Thanos or what have you. So that, I feel like, is the storyline within itself, that you don't necessarily need to follow a certain narrative for it to be effective. And I feel like this is just effective enough because it's basically giving us what the land is supposed to represent.
Right. And I think you're onto something with that. This is definitely a training thing. And that's why I was saying like test track. It feels very training. And it could be training for the other ride, right? They could be connected in that way, in a sense, which I think is smart. I also think there is also a possibility, just my speculation, I could be wrong. There's a possibility that, and I mentioned this with Ebba and Conductor the other night, where the beginning of the attraction is the training portion, right? We're gonna test your jetpack, recruit, yada yada yada, you know, that whole thing. But then something does happen where you do need to use your training in a real battle of some. So maybe the finale show scene is you going through New York City and you're actually like, you know, dodging and weaving and things are shooting at you or whatever. So you train in the beginning and then your training comes into play at the end, right? And that's a possibility. Now, remember, this is just one piece of art. So people are like, you know, kind of putting all their eggs into this one piece, but there might be a show scene at the end where you are in battle, you know what I'm saying? So, and it might not be, it could be something like what you were saying, which also makes sense, where it is like this the whole time. And then the other attraction is you in battle, you know what I'm saying? So they're two separate rides, but they're kind of connected in the same way. So it's kind of interesting, but I don't know. I just wasn't expecting this. This was not on my radar at all. I was not expecting two rides. And considering how no way. And considering how small Avengers Campus is, you're talking Flight Lab, Infinity Defense, Web Slingers, and Mission Breakout. That's a pretty stacked land in terms of attractions.
Once this is all said and done, this would be the next land in a long time that has more than two attractions in it. That's just based off of one IP.
Right, exactly.
Now, before we move on, really quick.
Sure.
Going back to what you have originally had said, that you start on the ground and the kind of the KUKA arm kind of latches onto you and picks you up.
Right.
That I thought was very interesting, the way that you described that, because that kind of sounded like what the original ride system that was going to be for the e-ticket.
Yes, very, very astute observation, Mr. Italiano. That does sound very similar to kind of like the whole thing with the Quinjet ride was like you were going to be like all of us were together in the vehicle, and then we branch out into our own individual KUKA arm thing.
Right.
So it's possible that there is some sort of like, maybe that's why we're getting two attractions, because remember the original attraction, the Imagineers. They couldn't get it right because of the capacity. That Burbank wasn't happy with how many people it was going to cycle through. So maybe they thought, well, you know, we did the R&D, the research and development on the technology. Why don't we go ahead and make a second attraction based on what we've learned from that Quinjet ride experience? And I bet you're on something with that, Italiano. I bet you that's probably that KUKA arm thing is probably what the Quinjet technology, or when you break off. It was probably that, almost certainly. So that's fascinating, very, very fascinating. So yeah, that's interesting. I think you're onto something with that for sure. So this is Avengers Campus, right? You go through here. This is all Avengers Campus. Now, I wanted to bring this up because we all know that the Avengers Infinity Defense is going to be right here behind. This is where that headquarters is, the store, right? And the show building for Infinity Defense will be here. And I believe also the Stark Lab is somewhere around here too. Like I think maybe around here, if I'm not mistaken. They're like side by side.
Because when you look at the piece of concept art, they have it almost like right next to each other. And what's kind of funny is the location for the Stark Flight Lab is, I'm assuming, where the Doctor Strange area is right now. So I think, it's
close. Well, here's it's kind of small. It's kind of hard to tell, but here's where the it looks like the KUKA arm ride is right here, and then this back here is the Avengers Infinity Defense. So they're basically side by side to each other, which is interesting because like you, and I'm glad you mentioned it, this is where the Doctor Strange show is right here.
Mhm.
And a lot of people were complaining about this show being shut down or canceled. I have a feeling, and I'm probably going to be wrong. Who knows? You never know. But I think this area, this Doctor Strange little area, is going to go away, and that's going to be part of this monstrosity they're adding here between the Infinity Defense and the Flight Lab. It's all part of that expansion. I think that's why they shut down that Doctor Strange thing. A lot of people were assuming it was they didn't want to pay the performers, which might be an element in that equation, absolutely. But I think it's more about these new rides coming in. I think they need the space, and that thing is going to go. What do you think,
Yeah,
Italiana?
I agree. I mean, as much as I enjoy the Doctor Strange show, I mean, once you see it, it's like how many times are you really going to see it? It's not really what you call a theater production kind of show. It's something that's kind of like offset that they utilize to fill in the gaps of the park, which nothing wrong with that. I enjoy entertainment throughout the park, but I feel like that they were kind of all just using that kind of like until they figured out what was going to go into Avengers Campus. So I feel like the Doctor Strange show really wasn't a permanent aspect. Regardless. So I'm okay with it going if it adds on another high capacity attraction. I'm very curious to see what the Stark Flight Lab will be. I'm a coaster and thrill junkie, so this would definitely be something up my alley. And I think once I go, I think I'm going to follow my own advice. I think I'm going to do when these attractions open the Stark Flight first, and then move on to the Avengers e-ticket.
Yeah, that might be
Infinity
smart.
Defense. I have to get used to calling it Infinity Defense because
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, and that might be a good idea. Actually, the whole idea of you starting on the ground and then the Kuka arm picks you up kind of makes me more interested to do it. That's kind of a dope element, I think. Like to load and be on a vehicle on the ground, and then you all of a sudden are in the air like that. That's kind of cool. I don't know. I think that's pretty.
And
neat.
I think at least that you should experience it just one time, just to say that you could do it. And I think based off of the concept art,
What are you
it's
saying?
more.
What are you saying, George? You call me a pussy, bro? You call me just do it one time? Like, what are you saying, bro? Not kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But it seems like it's more opened, like for you to be able to kind of see like what's going on. It doesn't have like that tight restriction that Forbidden Journey has.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. So this is going to double the land. I mean, this is crazy. You know, this is a big investment, and this is what I've been saying all along. This is what I've been saying all along. I know people are really upset over losing Bugs Land. I know Heimlich, and God bless him. We miss our choo choo. We miss our Heimlich choo choo. But here's the thing: it was a dead end franchise. Okay, I mean, Bugs Life. It was not a huge Pixar property, really. It wasn't maybe a moderate success. You know, that land was never going to go anywhere, right? Marvel
Right.
as a brand, as a franchise, whether or not you love Avengers Campus or not, there's more potential. This Avengers Campus edition was a seed planting endeavor by Disney. Build the land and you have endless potential to expand. There's so many different characters and stories you can add to it. That was really the purpose, I think, of Avengers Campus, the potential going forward. And we're seeing it now in action with this, where it's like, now we're adding 2 new rides. Now you can probably add another one too, if you want to expand out a little further into Hollywood land. You can do, I don't know, like a Ant-Man ride or something else, right? But you have a huge roster, library, endless really, of all these Marvel characters now. So the potential is there. With Bugs Land, it really wasn't. It was a cute land. The show was really well done, but there's only so much you can do with that. Marvel is really limitless. I mean, you can honestly probably build an entire park on Marvel, just Marvel alone. There's so much there to kind of mine from, So that was the point of Avengers Campus, was this unlimited potential.
And if
Go ahead.
anybody still wants to experience a Bugs Land, all you have to do is locate Ant-Man and the Wasp, and you can see the own little miniature. They shrunk a Bugs Land to preserve it in a sense, and they have it in a little like glass container. So if you still want to see a Bugs Land, technically you still can. But I wanted to ask you too, because we were talking about this in a previous video when we were talking about Coco and everything, of the locations of where it can go and what have you. Do you think that they could potentially hold off on anything with Hollywood Land so that way they can kind of save it for future development for Avengers Campus.
I mean, that's possible. Hollywoodland's big enough where you can kind of do both. Like, for example, hypothetical, right? If you wanted to do Coco in Hollywoodland, so you can replace Monsters Incorporated, Monsters Inc., and I don't know why I'm calling it Monsters Incorporated. That's really weird, isn't it? I don't know. It's Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. You can replace Monsters Inc. and you can expand out into that busload area. And if you wanted to expand Avengers Campus, you can kind of bulldoze the Hyperion and move it out that way. So you can kind of do both. There's enough room in Hollywood to kind of both can kind of exist. So, right. I mean, it's possible they're holding off, but I don't think so. I think they're gonna.
As everyone is like falling back in their chairs because you said bulldoze Hyperion.
Oh, I'm telling you, if that news comes out, if Disney announces that thing is going, remember there's no show in there. There hasn't been a show in there for a while. I think Rogers the Musical was the last thing in there, right? Woo! Yeah. I tell you, if they close that thing, that'll be the next controversial move. Yeah, look, obviously, probably.
I think that would be the. I think that would be the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be. It's not going to be on the same level as like the Rivers of America controversy because there's a lot more history or whatever in that. But that's going to be a big deal. Fans are not going to be thrilled about that if they decide to remove the Hyperion. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah,
they are not going to be happy, but we'll see. And it's a possibility. I'm telling you, I think Disney is eyeballing it. I really do. It's my speculation, though. I don't know. But the Italiano, thank you so much for joining. It's good to have you. It's good to have you back on the show, brother. It's good to have you in California too, man. Look at you. You and I. We're Italians, right? Look at the tans we got now. You know, you got really tan.
Folks, you can't really see it because the lighting in here is kind of crappy. But if you see me in person, man, I'm like the Italian version of Julio Iglesias.
Yeah, exactly. And George is a ladies' man. I'm surprised there's not a woman walking behind you in a bathrobe or something, George. You're a ladies' man. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised, dude. What's going on over there, man? No, but George, thank you so much for
that would be kind of funny though. At one point, like if I'm just recording, I'm just like so into it, I'm so serious, and then you just see like a lady passing by in her robe, and then coming this way, a woman passing by in her bikini. It's like
exactly. So on brand for the Italiano. George, if you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Hey, you know what? Sticky. There we go. The lovely ladies of Kiss of Life. We absolutely love them with their sticky. So everybody home, comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. Avengers Infinity Defense, the Stark Flight Lab, the possibility of maybe getting rid of the Doctor Strange area, to make way for all this stuff. What are your thoughts? We would love to hear from you. Comment down below. And until the next time.